When I left Christianity and fundamentalist churches, I noticed and did some research based on the kind of people I met, especially, rubbing shoulders with a lot of ex-religious or current religious people in therapy class. I noticed that there is a high percentage, like really, really high stats, for people, especially women. Well, really, I think only women can get it, whether it's cis or being trans. But women are more likely in high control religions to be diagnosed with things like pelvic floor pain, vaginismus, endometriosis, sex disorders. And there's reason for that. I did some Googling and looked into it. Tests done by very well-respected, extremely educated, and gifted people who did tests and interviewed hundreds of thousands of people. What is it like to be religious and be married, and are you more susceptible to getting one of these disorders? And they found out that you basically double your chance, and then some, to having things like vaginismus if you're in a very high control religion. And I'm not going to say that only Christian women get it, because that is a bunch of malarkey. Women who grow up in very religious households, it can be Muslim, Hindu, it can be any type of religion that really pushes shame, body discussions that are very negative, purity culture, virginity testing. There's a lot of religions and beliefs out there, very patriarchal, that focus very highly on women's value being tied to what activity they don't do, and lower their value based on what they do. And it's not a surprise to me that these kind of situations develop. And why do women who seem to dedicate their life and resources to religions, why does it seem like women always seem to get the short end of every stick imaginable, literally and figuratively? Why are women, cis or trans, why do they always seem to reap the worst parts of the patriarchal society? Because they're the group of people that are most targeted. That's why. It all comes down to the research. The research suggests that while highly religious women may report overall higher sexual satisfaction within marriage due to emotional and spiritual closeness, they may also be more likely to experience sexual shame, guilt, anxiety, internalized loathing, and self-hatred related to premarital sex or post-marital sex. You can't believe for 30 years that sex is wrong and that a piece of paper and an altar call is going to fix that experience. That's not how life works. That's not how the neurological system works. The neurological system is used to perceiving sex as wrong, taboo, and dirty, even though it's not. But within these high control religions, this is how a lot of women internalize the patriarchy. This shame, guilt, anxiety due to premarital sex, or even after, can lead to various health issues, not necessarily specific to commitment disorders. Purity culture and conservative attitudes promote stringent rules regarding sexual behavior and gender roles, emphasizing female virginity and abstinence until marriage. Anyone who, by their own choice, doesn't live up to that stupid ideal, or what's even worse, people who are kids who are abused and harmed without having deserved none of it, is blamed and treated just as badly as someone who consented and wanted a legal, warm, wonderful experience. Women with high religious commitment are more likely to hold conservative sexual values. There are marked discrepancies between actual sexual behaviors and what they perceive as morally acceptable due to their faith or political beliefs. This conflict can be a significant source of distress and contribute to sexual problems. They don't call it the orgasm gap or the gender gap for nothing. When your sex is based on or focused and centered around male desire, male gaze, male satisfaction, you have problems. Some religious contexts might instruct women to submit sexually and morality to prevent their husband from seeking satisfaction outside the marriage. No amount of sex or masturbation is going to keep your spouse faithful. It's a choice. It's either a character flaw or they don't want it and they lie and say they do. You don't owe anybody faithfulness unless you give your word. Not everyone wants monogamy. The approach of male-centered desire emphasizes the man's needs while potentially ignoring, marginalizing, or erasing women's sexual desire completely. The limited autonomy, agency, where they seldom advocate for themselves, affects a sexual well-being of a woman, let alone how she even looks at herself. Self-confidence can be in the toilet. And if women don't feel safe, sexy, and happy, that affects performance, experience, and long-lasting repercussions. A lack of sexual comprehensive education, believing that safe sex doesn't exist and that only marriage protects you from diseases is utter hogwash. Women in religious, high-control religions have limited education in reproduction, limited access to birth control, contraceptives, abortion. Very few know actually how their body works and how it doesn't. I sure didn't, not until I was almost 30 years old. And we're going to talk about some of the positive things that comes from growing up in high control religions.